Welcome back to Dinar Info News, your trusted source for all things related to global currency shifts, economic signals, and the long-awaited Iraqi Dinar Revaluation. If you're watching this, chances are you've been following the journey of the Iraqi dinar for some time, hoping, watching, waiting for the moment when the revaluation finally becomes a reality. Today, we bring you an explosive update that might be the clearest indication yet. The final signal has been given. The revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is imminent. In this report, we are going to take a deep dive into what's been happening behind the scenes, the clues that have surfaced in the past few weeks, and what all of this could mean not only for Iraq's economy, but also for those invested in the dinar and for the broader global financial system. Let's start by looking at the most recent developments within Iraq itself. Over the past few months, we've seen a sudden increase in government-level meetings that center around financial restructuring, oil revenue repatriation, and central bank transparency reforms. These are not isolated policy adjustments. They are structured, coordinated efforts spearheaded by both the Iraqi government and foreign advisors, primarily from the United States, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank. It's clear that Iraq is under pressure, not the kind of negative pressure, but rather strategic, diplomatic, and economic nudges to implement long overdue reforms that will stabilize their currency and open the door for a major financial shift. Sources close to the Central Bank of Iraq (CBI) have hinted that several major policies have already been signed off, including updates to monetary policy instruments, new anti-money laundering protocols, and banking digitization systems, of which are foundational pillars needed before a revaluation can take place. One of the most telling signs came last week, when a joint press briefing between the CBI and the Ministry of Finance ended with a cryptic but powerful statement. Iraq is prepared to take the next sovereign step in stabilizing its national currency to reflect its true value in the global market. That line, short as it was, has set the entire dinar community on high alert. When you strip away the diplomatic phrasing, what you're left with is a clear indication that preparations for a rate adjustment are not only underway, they are nearing completion. In fact, banking sources in Baghdad have leaked internal memos that suggest that rate testing simulations have already been carried out using various potential peg values. This means the systems are being actively primed to shift from a program rate to a real rate. And let's not forget the context. Just last year, Iraq formally began transitioning its economy from a heavily cash-dependent structure to one more in line with international standards. The digital payment infrastructure, the swift integration process, and banking compliance protocols are not small feats. They are major milestones on the roadmap to revaluation. But this isn't just about Iraq. This is about the broader geopolitical chessboard. Iraq's currency revaluation has long been entangled in a web of regional influence, international oil markets, and post-war reconstruction strategies. Consider the mounting diplomatic visits from high-ranking U.S. officials, representatives from the IMF, and even indirect support from GCC nations. These visits are not ceremonial. They are strategic signals. The revaluation of the dinar is not merely an economic event, it is a political and diplomatic play, intended to re-anchor Iraq as a key player in the region's financial ecosystem, and the timing could not be more appropriate. With global inflation cycles beginning to stabilize, oil prices trending in a favorable range for Iraq, and growing investor interest in Middle Eastern emerging markets, the window for revaluation is more open now than it has been in over a decade. Let's zoom in on the central role of oil in this equation. Iraq's oil exports have surged over the past 2 quarters, exceeding forecasts and generating record-breaking revenues. This surplus has allowed the government to fully fund its 2025 budget, one of the largest and most comprehensive in recent history without significant borrowing. And that's the kicker. An oil-rich country with a rapidly digitizing financial infrastructure, low external debt, and increasing political stability doesn't need to keep its currency suppressed. The logic is simple. A suppressed currency does not reflect economic reality. The IMF knows it, the CBI knows it, and now, the investors know it too. More importantly, Iraq is one of the few countries in the region with the oil reserves and export infrastructure to support a much stronger currency. So, when government advisors use phrases like real market value or monetary sovereignty, they're not speaking hypothetically, they're pointing to a future that is very likely already in motion. What makes this moment especially critical is the convergence of several long-anticipated policy shifts. For example, Iraq has begun implementing structural economic reforms required under IMF Article for Consultation protocols. For those unfamiliar, Article for Consultations are a form of economic audit conducted by the IMF to assess the fiscal health and currency strategy of a member country. A clean Article for report paves the way for greater international financial integration. And most importantly, it's a prerequisite for any formal currency revaluation. According to leaked summaries, Iraq's most recent article for review contains language that strongly supports monetary adjustment and praises Iraq's new fiscal discipline. Combine this with the fact that Iraq has recently settled decades-old debts with Kuwait and other nations, and what you're looking at is a nation cleaning its balance sheet in preparation for a currency reset. Let's also take a look at the financial markets. Over the last few weeks, there has been unusual but deliberate movement in the Forex indicators relating to Middle Eastern currencies. Traders who typically overlook the Iraqi dinar have started including it in algorithmic models, and there's been a noticeable uptick in off-market contract interest, even though the dinar is not yet fully internationally traded. These actions suggest that institutional investors are preparing for watching, analyzing, and positioning themselves ahead of what they believe is an inevitable change. Additionally, satellite data and financial tracking software have picked up an increase in currency delivery flights and central bank vault activity, including larger than usual incoming shipments marked for auditing and reserves stabilization. This is not coincidence. These are the types of logistical movements that typically occur in the lead-up to a monetary adjustment. The pieces are moving, and they're moving fast. Another underreported but vital piece of evidence is the sudden change in domestic policy regarding currency exchange, shops, and banks. Across Iraq, recent laws have cracked down on unlicensed money exchange businesses while simultaneously offering new incentives to banks that use the dinar for international transactions. This is a direct attempt to elevate the status of the dinar within Iraq's own economy, preparing the population and businesses for a post-revaluation landscape. What does that mean for you? It means that the groundwork has been laid not just on a technical level but also on a behavioral level. Iraqis are being encouraged to trust their own currency again, which is a necessary psychological step before any rate change is announced. There is also a deeper economic philosophy at play here. Iraq's policymakers have made it clear that they no longer wish to be seen as a post-war economy reliant on aid and outside financial steering. They want autonomy, and monetary autonomy starts with a strong, stable, and respected national currency. A revalued dinar not only represents that sovereignty, it sends a message to foreign investors, oil partners, and political allies that Iraq is entering a new era. Think of it as a rebranding of national identity through monetary policy. In every step being taken from banking modernization to bilateral trade agreements is part of that rebranding. Now, let's address the skeptics. Yes, we've heard the rumors before. Yes, there have been many false alarms over the past decade. But this moment is different. Why? Because this time, the infrastructure is ready. The political will is aligned. The international support is in place, and most importantly, the domestic readiness is there. You cannot flip the switch on a new exchange rate unless all those elements are stand for the first time in years. They appear to be the final signal that everyone's been waiting for isn't a tweet or a press conference. It's the culmination of systemic alignment between fiscal readiness, digital infrastructure, international legitimacy, and sovereign determination. To add to this, we must not ignore the psychological aspect of revaluation. Every central bank understands that currency changes must be carefully timed to manage expectations and avoid market shocks. That's why Iraq has been so deliberate, so cautious in every step leading up to this point. But at some point, caution becomes readiness, and according to our sources, that moment is either here or days away. Internal memos within the Iraqi government and CBI have already discussed emergency communication strategies, citizen education programs, and integration support with regional banking systems. These are not plans being made for the distant future, they are steps being implemented now. In closing, all signs point toward one conclusion. The final signal has been given. The Iraqi dinar is poised for revaluation. If you've been following Dinar Info news, you know we don't jump on hype or rumors.